Hi there, my name's Andy Payne, and today on behalf of Parkinson's Care and Support UK I'm going to take you through a series of exercises lasting about 35 minutes, and those exercises will be unilaterals. To work unilaterally basically means to work one side of the body and then another separately, and it does a great deal to help the neuromuscular pathways and the control pathways between the brain and the rest of the body. You'll notice as I work through these exercises that I will consistently come back to reiterate the importance of stabilising through the core, and that's done by pulling everything in around the spine, front, back and sides. As you work through these set of exercises, please continue to breathe as you would normally. So starting as we normally do, rolling through the shoulders. And before I started, I've moved my bum forward in the chair to the first half or third of the chair, and I'm sitting up nice and tall, and that just begins to tell my core muscles that they must do some work in order to help me stabilise. So today's session is done with dumbbells. If you don't have dumbbells at home, by all means use a couple of baked bean tins, being careful to grip them securely throughout, or a couple of water bottles. Small water bottles are easier to grip, and just make sure that the lids of those water bottles are done up nice and tight. So I'm beginning to mobilise my shoulders simply by rolling them backwards. And some of you may experience some knocks, some cracks and some creaks at this stage. I usually joke that it's time to get the WD-40 out. I wouldn't particularly worry about those cracks or those aches unless you've got significant pain. So if this movement causes you pain, make the movement smaller or slower. So if you are suffering pain as a result of these movements, smaller and slower is a good way to go, and then it will also be worth speaking to a medical professional or practitioner. And from here, let's close our arms, give ourselves a hug, and then open out to the sides. Again, I'm sitting up nice and tall, my shoulders are back over my hips, my chest is lifted very slightly to keep me sat up nice and tall. Opening and closing. And I'm working to stretch my arms slightly around the sides of my body. As I close my arms, my chest muscles are shortening, and as I open them, my chest muscles are lengthening. And from here, let's go back to rolling, nice big circles. Excellent, well done. It's almost like you're trying to pull your shoulder blades up towards your ears. And then we come back and down. We tend to do this exercise rolling backwards because it's about opening up the front of the chest and the shoulder muscles. When we do them the other way, if we were to roll forward, we'd be closing those areas down. Now, most of us already have a slight muscular imbalance across the chest because the amount of time that we may spend at a desk, the amount of time that we spend sitting, and the amount of time where we've got our arms out in front of us. This is classic posture causing shortening across the chest muscles. Let's go back to crossing and opening again. Sitting up nice and tall. Excellent job. Let's do 4 more of these. 1, 2. As I do it, you notice I'm taking it alternate sides, which arm comes to the top. Okay, from here let's bring the hands together into a prayer position, reaching out diagonally across the body, chest muscles stretching, upper back muscles shortening. So our shoulder muscles are consistently taxed throughout our lives. Every movement that is done with the arms requires your shoulder muscles. Indeed, many of the exercises that are to come today in this workout will be using the shoulder and the arm muscles. So it's a really good idea to make sure that you're mobilised and warmed up as you go through your exercises. And if we want to just do a little bit of a coordination challenge, perhaps we'll do 2 in one direction and 2 in the other. 1 and 2, swap, 1 and 2, swap. Excellent job. Keep going for me. And last time, 1 and 2. Moving on from here, it's a really good idea for us to get the lower body moving as well. So I'm literally just going to lift my heels on both legs as I do that, lifting and lowering, lifting and lowering. The muscles working here are the calf muscles, the back of the lower leg, and they are quite often tight. Particularly if you're somebody that has spent time in high heel shoes. Even chaps' shoes very often have a significant heel on them, and even sports trainers are tending now to be raised at the heel. They put the calf under stress, so we're just mobilising that muscle now, lifting and lowering. And then if we want to take this on to something a bit more taxing, we can go to lifting the leg completely. So we come up and tap, up, tap. And again, this is a good example of a unilateral muscle, because we are lifting right leg and then left, right and left. You can see just a small amount of movement across my shoulders, and I'm consciously contracting my core muscles, but continuing to breathe as normal. Excellent job. So if I were to switch my core muscles off at this stage, it would look something like this. Okay, that may cause us some back pain issues. Core muscles switched on. If you find this difficult, make sure your movement is smaller and slower. In many cases, movement is a solution, but if you are suffering pain, smaller and slower is the way to go. And over time, you build up your tolerance, you build up your strength to particular exercises that may cause a challenge. Excellent job. Tummy muscles working throughout, breathing as you would normally. And 4, 3, 2 and 1, okay. And now I'm going to begin my unilaterals. I'm just going to practice them without a weight to begin with. This may feel slightly odd for some of you. So coming down to the shoulder. Being careful not to arch the back. So in a moment I'll turn around and show you this exercise from the side. But I'm keeping my shoulders over my hips. The exercise may come out to the front and back, So all the time I'm just working across one limb, if you like, and I'm stabilising through the core. And then we might also come out to the sides. And this is a great way to warm up, telling the body which movements we're going to do with our weights, but with nothing in our hands to begin with. We're switching on, we're firing up the muscles, the joints, and the pathway between brain and body. Excellent job. And last 4, 3, 2, and 1. Excellent. Let's try that in a slightly different plane, and let's do this one from the side. So now I'm going to front raise, and you should be able to see that because my core muscles are engaged here and here, I'm able to raise my arm into this position without any movement happening in my back. Now you may find that your range of movement is slightly more limited than mine, so you may come up to this sort of level. You may indeed come a little bit lower. Okay. Some of you on the other hand will be able to come right up and still do that with alignment through the spine, but I want you to work through your own range, so don't force these movements, guys. Okay, let's go round to the other side and do the same thing. Again, stabilise through the tummy, the side muscles and the lower back. Keeping the shoulders over hips. Again, smaller and slower is a good solution if you find this particularly difficult. And I find that one of the wondrous things about the body, the miraculous things about the body, is that as we ask a little bit more of it, and we exercise with consistency and small progression, your body often will progress into a stronger state and become more able. Okay, so let's now have our hand weights. I've got mine down to the side here. Okay, so we are coming up first of all to shoulders, pressing above the head, stabilising through the core, tummy muscles pulling in around the spine, pushing overhead, keeping my elbows into the side of my body. That protects and prevents tension through my upper back and neck muscles. Again, smaller and slower if needs be, and if this is particularly difficult but you'd like to have a go, run through it at your own pace using just your hands, no weight to begin with. As your confidence grows, you can introduce the weights. Okay, let's do 4 more. So 4, controlled, 3, 2, and 1. Excellent. Okay, let's go for a slightly different movement, and in this case I'm going to put one weight down on the ground. I'm going to take the dumbbell and rest it across my thigh, steering well clear of the kneecap, and I'm now going to lift this knee up off of the ground very slightly, lifting and lowering. Continue to breathe normally, shoulders back over hips, tummy muscles working throughout. Now fortunately, because of the time of the year, it has got warmer. Although here in Brighton today is a little bit grey, it is still warm. Do stop for drinks as you go through these workouts. 2 more this side, we'll go over to the other side and have a go there. 1 and 2. Excellent. The weight comes across onto the other side. Sitting up nice and tall, lifting, lowering. You may well feel the tummy muscles work particularly hard with this one. And you may ask, well, why is it necessary to work unilaterally, Andy? Well, the answer to that is that very often in our day-to-day lives we use one limb at a time, particularly around climbing stairs. We'll put one foot on the next step up and then push. So we require strength in the limbs separately as much as together. We also require balance and strength and core stabilisation as we walk. So just two examples of unilateral movement in our day-to-day lives. 2 and 1. Okay, from here let's have a look at the front raise. So in this case I'm going to rest one of the weights on my thigh and I'm going to come up in front. So I'm just working very slightly above shoulder height. The other thing about unilaterals is they do provide some variety to our exercise regimes, and therefore variety very often means adherence. So if we get a little bit bored, we find our exercise routines a little dull, very often we'll find a reason not to do them. A little bit of variety brings a new stimulus, and the human brain and human behaviour does support a small challenge. We like a challenge, but it must be one which is safe. Okay, now if we're feeling particularly brave, we can do alternates here. Coming up left, down under control, up right and down under control. Left, lower, right, lower. If you are particularly strong, you can come up a little bit higher, but you must make sure that the core is stabilised and you have no movement through the lower back. The back is not arching. I'll show you that from the sides. Checking my back in the camera, up, lower, up, lower. You'll see there's no movement in my back at all. And that's because I'm conscious of getting the core muscles to work, and I want my tummy muscles, my transverse abdominis front of the body, my oblique side of the body, and my lower back, spinal erectors, quadratus lumborum, all of those lovely Latin names. I want them all to support me in my movement and to keep me safe and ensure that I don't get injured. One more on each side, and one. Excellent. Okay, let's come round again, back to the centre. Okay, and now we're going to go to a hammer curl exercise, and this exercise I like to do with one weight down beside me, so I'm just going to pop that one down beside my hip. This one I'm going to hold with the head of the weight pointing towards the ceiling. I'm going to bring that down by the side of my body. I'm going to tuck the elbow into the side of the body, and I'm going to come up toward my shoulder. The muscles that are working here are bicep muscles. They are involved in flexion of the elbow, so it's this bending of the elbow, the movement that I'm creating causes the contraction in the bicep. The bicep is this muscle just here, front of the upper arm. Again, I'll show you this one sideways. Some of the exercises are best viewed this way. Down to the side with the weight, tummy muscles engaged, looking straight ahead, I keep my elbow nice and still, locked into the side of the body, and it's this muscle here, this one here, that's working. Curling and returning. Curl and return. Excellent. Let's do 3 more of these. Keeping my wrist neutral so that I don't overly stress the forearm. And let's go over to the other side. Keep an eye on how many exercises you're doing on each side so that you get nice symmetrical strong muscles on both sides. Down to the side, flexion, bending through the elbow, looking straight ahead, chin parallel with the ground, tummy muscles contracted. Excellent. And you probably can feel these muscles now doing their job, and they're starting to tire. So for the purposes of today, as I've gone through the workout, I've done sets of between 8 and 10, so 8 and 10 single repetitions or lifts. And I'm just going to do 1 set of each exercise, 1 set of 8 or 10 with each muscle. But indeed, if you were strong and you wanted to challenge a bit more, perhaps you would do 2 sets, perhaps even 3, but always keep an eye on safety first. Excellent job. Okay. Now I've lost my dumbbell. Let me find the dumbbell. There it is. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is work the big upper back muscles, and we do that by putting the weight up to our chin on one side and then the other. So these big upper back muscles are called latissimus dorsi, or lats as they're quite commonly known. Many of our muscle names derive from the Latin language, and in many cases the names of the muscle will describe the shape of the muscle. So for instance, in the upper back we have 2 muscles underneath the shoulder blades. They're called rhomboids, and they are the shape of a rhomboid. So the names are descriptive. Notice as I work here that I'm keeping my chin parallel with the ground and I'm keeping it still. I'm keeping the weight in nice and close to my body, and I'm keeping the elbows more or less level with the shoulders. Sometimes we see this sort of thing happening. That causes quite a lot of stress on the neck. So just about the same height is a good shout. Pulling up and returning under control all of the way through. And 4, 3, 2, and 1. Okay, and the last exercise we're going to do today is the chest muscles. Now this one is particularly challenging. I'm going to take the weights out in front of me and I'm going to come to the side and in again. Side and in. You guys may be best placed to do this without a weight in your hands. Now because the weight is distal to my body, it really is challenging to my core muscles. Keeping the elbow bent, working at shoulder height, I come to the side. 4, 3, 2, and 1. I would approach that exercise with caution. It is a challenging one and can be practiced without any weight at all until we are confident that we've got our technique correct. Okay, put the weights underneath the chair, beside the chair, And let's now loosen up. Now you may well find yourself feeling quite tense in this area of the body, the upper back and neck. We have done a little bit of work for the legs. Indeed, one of the most functional exercises for the legs is to get yourself in and out of a chair with control. So if you wanted to add a set of sitting to standing exercises, then by all means do that. But for today, I'm going to take you into stretching next. So the first stretch that I'm going to do is out in front and stretches the upper back muscles. So we do this hugging a tree. We take the hands forward, we tuck the chin onto the chest, and I look at this space between my arms and down between my feet. And I am allowing myself to push forward here and stretch across the big upper back muscles. Come back to the centre so that you can see me. Hugging a tree, chin onto chest, looking at the ground, shortening chest muscles, lengthening through the upper back. My chin drops onto my chest, and that allows for a lengthening of the suboccipital, neck, cervical, spine muscles. And we can take the hands overhead and lift the chest. And return nice and gently, keep it under control. Lift. And lower. Lift. And lower. Two more of those. Lift. And lower. Okay. Elbows into the side of the body, rotate round to one side and the other. And today, because we've done some rowing, because we've done quite a lot of upper body posterior back muscles, I'm feeling that across the upper back, which is great. Nice to feel that stretch. Side. And return. So these exercises, these stretches they have a degree of movement in many of them, and we call those dynamic. If we wanted to take that onto a static stretch, I might just come round to the side of my chair and hold that. I'd look at the opposite wall. Hold for a few seconds on each side, come back to the centre gently. Round to the other side, look at the opposite wall. From here I'm going to take the hands onto the back of my chair, just going to shuffle slightly further forward. I'm going to draw my shoulder blades back towards my spine and feel this stretch through the chest, and I'm looking down at the ground around about 12 or 18 inches in front of me. And from there relax. One hand down to the side of the chair, take the other one up, look at the hands, stretching through the big upper back muscles and lower back, coming down. Look at the hands. Nice and smooth with the movement. Just go as far as you're able. Some of you may find it difficult to take that hand up over the head, in which case you could come just to the sides and pop your hands onto your chest. You also feel that in the side muscles. Gently does it. Okay, so I'm still feeling quite tense through the neck and shoulders. I'm going to drop my hands down to the side. I'm literally going to turn my head left and right, left and right. And you'll have varying degrees of mobility through this area of your body. Very often is one of the places that we carry stress and tension. So you'll just work within the limitations of your own body. Okay, let's now stretch the triceps. So I take my hand up into the centre of the neck, bring this one over the top, lift the chest, and I pull this right elbow in slightly to feel a stretch in the back of the arm. Again, some of you may have some mobility challenges by doing that, so the alternative is to take the hand onto the neck and shoulder and lift that elbow slightly. All right. Work at whatever rate you are able to achieve. Do the same thing on the other side. Hand up into the centre of the neck, over to that elbow, lift the chest, feeling a stretch through this tricep back of the arm. Those muscles tend to be our pushing muscles, so things like pushing through doors is all tricep driven. Again, different variation, hand onto the neck, lift the elbow, lift the chest slightly too. Back of the arm stretching here. Going to move on to stretching the hamstring. I straighten that leg out in front of me, take both of my hands onto the bent knee, leaning forward and down, and looking at my toes to keep my neck in line with the spine. I lift my toe and I'm also now stretching the calf muscle. So this stretch literally goes from my glute down to my knee and then continues down towards my ankle and heel on this side. Bring that leg back in and swap to the other side. Nice straight limb, straight back, hip hinging. Let's have a look at that from the side, Andy, so we can see what's going on. Straighten the leg, nice straight back. Stretching right the way from here up to here into the glute. Lift the toe, looking at the tip of my toes. Both hands are in this case on my left knee. And that does a really good job of protecting the lower back. Okay, let's have a few seconds of yin and yang, which is Tai Chi inspired movement, just loosening up those shoulders again. Lifting one arm and lowering the other. A nice, calm, peaceful return to our normal rate of living. And lastly, we'll yin and yang. So we've done the vertical version of that movement. Let's now do horizontal. So my left hand is facing across the body. My right is facing away from the body. Pull across, swap position, pull back. Swap, pull back. Okay, so that's the end of our 35-minute unilateral exercise session. My name's Andy Payne, teaching on behalf of Parkinson'S Care and Support UK. Stay safe and I hope to see you again soon. Thank you.